So welcome everyone. We will talk about expanding for global success in this panel. And we are lucky to have these amazing panelists we have today with us. They all have great experiences in different startup regions. So what they will share with us today will be very beneficial for entrepreneurs who want to go global. So I want to stop here and I want to turn to my panelists. So Linda, Ernst, Philip, welcome. Welcome to Istanbul and welcome to Webrazzi Summit.
Thank you.
And can you guys tell us a little bit about your background and what are you guys busy with currently? And ladies first, Linda.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you, Dugyu. Well, my name is Linda Saab. I lead tech. I lead growth and business development at Astro Labs, which is a tech hub, co-working space, community, and entrepreneurship academy. Today, we have 3 spaces in the MENA, 1 in Saudi and 2 in Dubai. We have really exciting times right now because we're growing and it's a big, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Ernst?
Thank you. So I'm Ernst Hoestra, Managing Director for Startup Bootcamp in Amsterdam. So in Amsterdam, we run about 5 acceleration programs. Startup Bootcamp does this across the globe. In about 16 countries, we accelerate about 200 startups every year. And we also work with a lot of corporates across the globe to really make sure that they are doing the right thing and adopting a little bit of this magic in startups, the startup thinking, the lean startup type of methodologies. The third leg on what we do is we operate as well the Talent Institute. So we retrain academics in all the skills that you need nowadays in terms of growth hacking, digital design, UX design, which is super interesting, and obviously that reinforces that entire ecosystem, which is obviously the way we operate today. Next to this, I'm also working for INSEAD, the business school in Fontainebleau in Singapore. And I'm the entrepreneur resident, so I help MBAs in their venture plans, as well working as faculty advisor for impact investment, which is super interesting. And obviously, Mr. Harding will have a few more words on this one.
Awesome. Thank you. Philip?
Yes. First, I'd like to say something. Akşamlar. Ben Philip Harding. Bugün aranızda olmaktan çok mutluyum. That's all I got.
Your pronunciation was really good.
Hey everyone, I'm Philip, the co-founder of Impact Junkie, and we're an ecosystem and entrepreneur of passionate investors, entrepreneurs passionate about making a difference in the world, and a sort of digital co-working space internationally with connections around the globe. And basically we help people discover, uncover, and live out their dreams empowered through entrepreneurship. And we work everywhere from villages in jungles to major urban cities around the world. And we have an awesome network. And it was really born out of a personal passion that I felt. I grew up in California. Anyone from California? All right. Yeah. I grew up in California and went to a community college. And long story short, ended up finishing my undergrad at Harvard University and going into the master's program focused on business and government. And really, how can we apply private practices and private principles to the world's biggest public problems? And so I also felt, so right after Harvard, I went to work in government. I worked a lot on government modernization and innovation in the digital space a lot as well. Everywhere from the Pentagon, which involved starting an innovation center and a startup, if you will, inside the Pentagon, over all the way to the White House, and a lot of agencies in between, which was quite an experience. But in the middle of all of that, I felt this continual drawing and like hunger to do more with what I'd been given, and the experiences that I had, the knowledge that I'd worked so hard for, and I was exposed to needs around the world, and such as, you know, dramatic needs that you can kind of be in a bubble and not be aware of them, both around the globe, on the other side of the world, or right in your backyard. And so I decided I wanted to do something about it. And so that's really how Impact Junkies started. And now we've got thousands of Impact Junkies all around the world as a part of this movement. And we're helping new entrepreneurs. We help people discover the power of entrepreneurship to understand needs and solve problems. Not just make money, but do good. And we're helping also corporations figure out how to do impact well. And we do a lot of workshops. Currently, I'm also a mentor at the Innovation Lab at Harvard. And also recently been asked by Johns Hopkins University to build out innovation and social impact curriculum and required course for their master's program. So a lot going on in this space, but that's a little
Pretty
background.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all for the introductions. So I want to jump into the questions related with the local ecosystems that you guys are in. Ernst, I want to start with you. So we know that Amsterdam is one of the most flourishing startup hubs in Europe. And as the managing director of Startup Bootcamp, you are one of the top contributors to the local ecosystem. So can you draw the picture of entrepreneurship ecosystem in Amsterdam for us in terms of investments and quality of the projects, etc.?
Sure. So you're using the terminology ecosystem, and I think that was also mentioned by some of the previous speakers, because there's probably no real good Turkish word for this. If you look into what consists a successful startup community, obviously government, infrastructure, those type of things, they need to be in place. And what I mean by that is sort of, hey, if you want to start a venture, no red tape, you can start a venture tomorrow, you have your tax number, you can move on, you got your banking account. Within a week, you're all set up, which is super important.
Yeah.
Other elements like that, sort of this business savviness that you see in the Dutch market. You know, people are very sort of open to new innovations. Technology-wise, people are very savvy. Everybody speaks English, so the language aspect is super important in order to have that acceleration.
Yeah.
And that automatically creates, and we have a large pool because it's a very dense populated activity, whilst the infrastructure is still really good. So I can send my startups to top 50 companies in Holland within an hour's drive. That includes Philips, Unilever, ING Bank, you name it. We are on a first name base with all of these people on the top of the company, so we can really help them accelerate. So you need to have that engagement, and as Philip said, sort of mentoring is crucial. So we have a fantastic pool of people around in our ecosystem that is giving up their time freely to support our startups, and it's people in the top of the Dutch businesses. Next to that, we have a very sort of a good infrastructure around investors. So we probably are connected directly with about 50 VCs that we work on a daily basis with. They trust us because we bring them curated type of ventures. And we see ourselves, if you take all the hassle away, we are actually a production company of successful businesses. Mm-hmm. So 90% of our businesses that we have accelerated is still in operation, which is unique otherwise, because usually that is an inverse ratio, you know, 10% only survives. Yeah. And that is a lot of hard work, and you can only do that with a very good sort of ecosystem, people, and we live and breathe. Sort of our tagline is, we empower innovators. So we want you to do the best of your ability as a business. And we had an amazing session here yesterday in Istanbul, scouting new startups here, and we love it. You know, this is also typically sort of, you know, what we do, reach out to the world, because innovation doesn't have any boundaries in this space. And Amsterdam is probably, you know, one of the better breeding places in this one. Very friendly, very open, very tech savvy, that you need in order to flourish.
Thank you. I will also ask about the opportunities and challenges of the ecosystem, but I will come back to you later. Linda, so same question for you. So tell us about the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Middle East, but especially in Dubai. We know that there are a lot of things going on there. Dubai is becoming a global hub for startups. So tell us what's really going on there.
Okay. So just to give you an overview about the MENA entrepreneurship scene today, UAE still leads and counts the total number of startup activity and 29%, which amount to 61% of the total investment. According to Magnet report of funding analysis, which gives you an overview as well about what's going on in the MENA region, there was a slight increase in the startup activity, like there was emergence in the ecosystem, in the Lebanese ecosystem, the Egyptian, and the Jordanian and the Saudi ones. However, UAE still counts as having the largest piece of the pie, and in specific, usually the industry the most active right now are e-commerce, like followed by healthcare. So why it's Dubai appealing as on the ecosystem scene? Well, we can say because it's an open market, so at the moment there's no saturation. There's a lot of space for other companies to come and set up their business, and it's super easy. So it's easy setup. You don't need like a huge bank account bank capital. You have like 0% tax. You can just get a work visa within a week time and come and set up. Part of our value proposition as Astrolab Tech Hub co-working space is we do have a strategic partnership with DMCC, which is one of the biggest and largest free zone in Dubai, so we can assist you with the license. So as a startup coming to Dubai, they use our co-working space as a launch pad, as a cost-efficient landing space. They don't pay for the license fee nor company registration, and we eliminate all frictions. So you as a startup, you want to come to Dubai or any new market and just focus on your business development and meeting the right clients and building your business, and this is how we can assist you.
Wonderful. Philip, so you have a deep experience in the West Coast ecosystem, especially Washington, D.C. And your experience is kind of unique because you launched a startup in the Pentagon, and you were working with the White House. So please tell us the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
But also, I know that you travel a lot to invest in startups all around the world. So you were in Antalya this morning.
Yes.
So you just landed. So please tell us about the emerging startup hubs globally.
Sure. Yeah. If any of you are looking to start something in the U.S., come talk to us. ImpactJunkie.co. Follow us online. If you want to do something abroad, come talk to us as well. We'd love to work with you. One of the things we're really focused on is making impact become part of the integral part of your business model, not just something that is something nice to do after business. And the market's becoming more sophisticated in the U.S. specifically, but I think also around the world. People want to be a part of organizations that are having an impact, that are doing good, not just making money, but making a difference. And you're also going to attract employees as well internally, as well as have obvious benefits externally. So, but doing that well, the market's also becoming more sophisticated and can see through when you just sort of tack something on and say, oh yeah, we're doing something to help people. People can see through that. And we make the argument, and there's been many examples in the US of companies that put impact at the core, and it's actually a very smart business decision. So it's not that you're just doing good because it makes you feel good, but you're actually applying those same business principles and entrepreneurial ways of thinking that you all have in this room. There's so much potential in this room to apply that to these problems we face in our communities and in our countries and around the world. The work I did in government was sort of entrepreneurial, if you will, to spur up innovation and thinking inside of the US federal government. So going into very bureaucratic, hundreds and hundreds of year-old institutions and trying to get them to think differently. One of the projects I headed up and ran, which is now turned into sort of an internal VC fund inside the federal government called 10X. It was called The Great Pitch. And we put together a Shark Tank. Originally, the funding came from Congress, and it was a top-down approach of here's how the money is going to be handed out, and we make all the decisions. And we said, what if we flip that and put users at the front, right? Imagine that. And they got to pitch. And so that's one project. Carrying that outside of government as well, I think in DC specifically, there's a lot of focus on organizations that do want to, they're idealistic and they do want to make an impact, There's a lot, obviously. The U.S. federal government has an $80 billion spending, 80 billion with a B, in IT that is spent every year, annually. And not all of it so well, and that's just the money we know about. So there's a lot of opportunity in that space as well. In traveling abroad, one thing I'll just say is we have a motto with Impact Junkie. We say love, listen, learn. Love, listen, learn. And really understanding empathy, as you all focus on with your startups, understanding before you try to go into a new culture or a new setting, how are you really understanding and loving, trying to help the people you love? In Antigua, Guatemala, outside of Guatemala City in Central America, for example, you go down and sit down with the startups there, and we're starting to talk about investment opportunities and things like that. And they say, you know, exits, we don't really have exits here. So it's a completely different kind of investment strategy. And then in Nepal, anybody been to Nepal? Yeah, okay, cool, let's talk. There's a talk about this missing middle, where there'll be a lot of funding at the very entry level and seed level, and then maybe there's funding at the higher level, but there's this sort of missing middle. And I haven't had enough time yet in Turkey to love, listen, and learn as much as I want, but some of the things I have heard is there can be a lot of seed funding to get things started, but to help ventures here in Turkey in this region to get to that next level. So that's what we try to do with all of our ventures, whether we're in the United States and we're trying to solve a need or working in federal prisons, or we're trying to work on human trafficking, which surprises a lot of people, is also a big issue in the United States. Or we're in a remote jungle in Central America. It's going in with those same principles of loving, listening, and learning, and then going in without preconceived ideas and assumptions, and letting them tell you about the needs and really understanding so you can bring the best solutions.
Wonderful, thank you. So entrepreneurs are being told that they need to think big and they need to expand their business into the new markets, but since there is no one-size-fits-all approach, so it's very crucial to know the local dynamics. So what would be your advice for entrepreneurs who want to expand their business into your local ecosystems? What are the biggest challenges and opportunities for them? Linda, let's start with you.
Sure. Well, I always advise startups and entrepreneurs, like, first thing first, to simplify is really have a very good product. Like you should, Ace, you really have an amazing product. Once you have that and you validate it in your own market, then you guys are ready to scale anywhere, as long as your product is the right fit of where you're going. My advice as well is, like, minimize your cost. Once you're trying to scale to any market, just try to start with one person or two people, just to go there and do your market research and study more the market and focus on learning more about your clientele, how you're going to generate revenue, and then you can scale. I'm just going to give an example of Insider, a Turkish startup that came and used Astrolab as a home and a launchpad for their business. They started with one person and grew. And another good example is Deliveroo, the UK startup. They came to us, they started with one person, and within less than a year, they became like 20 people, and they graduated. So usually a company, before entering any market, they should just, you know, have a good product, start with the minimum number, like the minimum number of people, only one person or two persons, and really make sure that their product is a good market fit for that market.
Thank you. Philip.
Hello? Am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
Come talk to us. That's my answer.
No, don't just...
Come work with us. Come work with all of us. Yeah, we'll all work with you. I'm excited. I'd love to. One thing I think it's easy to forget, because there's a lot of focus on an app or a product. Just remember that investors are really wanting to invest in you and your team. And make yourself that guy or that girl or that person in that space that they know you can be the expert in that. And no matter what idea you have, whether if it fails, I want to know that you're the right person to work with. So I would say remember that. That's a big thing. There's a big rise in communities in the US and co-work spaces and being part of a community to work together to solve problems. And so how you can contribute to that in more ways, that's something that's really important that I found as well.
Thank you. Ernst.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that we usually share with our startups as well. First one is, don't get too fussed if the corporates don't have the same pace as you have, because hey, you're a startup. That means hey, you're just a temporary organization finding a business model before running out of resources. If you talk to a corporate, they don't have a bloody clue about these type of things. Hey, they're working on budget. They have a totally different type of pace. So try to understand either side, and this is what we call corporate startup collaboration. Super important to address both ends. If one side is ready, then the other side might be ready, but don't get angry if the other side is not ready. You know, this is also things that you can deal with. To Philip's point, you know, how important is the team? To us, team is everything. If you have a strong team, don't go there by yourself. Find people around you that can complement you in your skill base, in the activities. Don't fall in love with your own idea, which is obviously happening to many entrepreneurs. And also consider to stop with something that you are doing and spend tons of time on if it's not really having the product market fit or the MVP, as Linda said. You know, you need to be able to stop the process if it's not going to be successful. Do yourself a favor. Your opportunity cost doing something else that's much more contributing, whether it's impact or money-wise, is, you know, you have to be facing yourself in the mirror to do so. And probably 50% of the startups that I see, I give them that advice. You know, think about when you're going to stop. Is this really worth to pursue it? Giving up 2 years of your life, telling that to your family, or telling that to your relatives to say, hey, this is the price I'm going to pay. This is also where we come in from time to time as accelerator. We save you those 2 years. Yeah. And after those 3 months, you know whether you can be successful or not.
Awesome. So as a summary, if you have a startup and if you want to expand your business into different markets, so be sure that your team is awesome. Be sure that you have a great product, and be sure that you're talking with the right people. And if you want to go to Dubai, talk to Linda. And if you want to go to anywhere in the world, talk to Philip. And if you want to go to Amsterdam or Europe, talk to Ernst. Thank you so much for joining us today, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.